Hello and welcome to the OK Preps Extra podcast. I'm Patrick Prince, joined as always by Barry Lewis. This is the post Super Bowl Monday, February 13th edition. Well, before we get into some preps, Barry, what'd you think of the Super Bowl?
Well, great game. So you couldn't ask for much more. Could have asked for maybe just from a neutral standpoint, would have loved to have seen, just like with the Chiefs game in the AFC Championship against the Bengals, when you're from a neutral standpoint, you'd love to have seen it play out without the penalties, because you could envision those are going to be two incredible overtime games potentially, especially in the AFC Championship. But yesterday, I could have seen that going into OT too, or just seeing Jalen Hurts try to lead the Eagles down the field in the last minute and a half to either get it into overtime or win it outright. And then, of course, Mahomes then to have to come back, and Jalen Hurts gives him 20 seconds left, and then Mahomes then leads the Chiefs back. So it would have been some spectacular potential for some spectacular finishes with those quarterbacks. But the penalties that had to be called prevented that. So from a neutral standpoint, you know, both of those games were really great games, and you would have wished that you would have had a spectacular finish instead of a somewhat anticlimactic finish, because those games deserved a great ending. It's funny, right before that penalty at the end yesterday against the Eagles, I was thinking, well, they've been letting them play today for the most part. But the Chiefs, 2 Super Bowl wins in 4 years, they really have the potential for a dynasty. Don't see, as long as Mahomes stays healthy, anything stopping them.
Yeah, he's only 27, right? Yeah. What did you think of the James Bradbury penalty? Some say you can't call it in that instance. Some say you got to call it. And the player himself even said it was a penalty. What do you think?
My initial reaction was, again, what I sort of alluding to. Yeah, you really hate to see a penalty being called in those last moments when it's such a great game and having such an impact, basically pretty much deciding the game at the end. Whereas in the Bengals game, it's like something that's just so obvious. You see that called all the time. You got to call it. Yesterday, my first reaction was, wow, that's really tough to call. I didn't think there was enough there in that situation to call it. Yes, it's technically a penalty. Yeah, it's something you call in the first period, in the first quarter, second quarter. But this is like we see in all sports, especially I think of hockey, where penalties in the first period aren't being called in overtime of Stanley Cup playoff games. And that was my first reaction yesterday about that late penalty against the Eagles, knowing, hey, this basically decides the game. This is going to give that penalty, even though it technically is a good call, is going to give the Chiefs the win unless they screw it up. So that was my first reaction. But hey, when the Eagles are admitting to the penalty and they're not giving any excuses, there is no controversy now. So, but that was just my first reaction.
Yeah. All right, let's talk a little high schools. So we unveiled the all-world football team last Saturday. All-state was on Sunday. What kind of feedback have you gotten?
Well, not much negative feedback so far. So, which is always good. I mean, we put a lot of effort trying to get it right. And as we said, when we were talking about all-world and all-state, especially, I can talk about the football, and I think this probably is true in the other sports too. There's more people that you'd like to put on the first team that there's just no room for. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's people with first team caliber seasons that there's just not room for. Or in the case of football, so people who, could have been legitimately on the second team, but they're going to be honorable mention. So it's tough to leave those people off, but we try to get it right. We try to also have a balance of teams in. So, in it really is a lot of effort trying to get it right. And I hope I haven't really heard much negative feedback, from the one thing I'd like to add about the all-state selections. Sometimes a deciding factor in some players is, well, first off, some people be wondering, well, so-and-so made all world first team. Why aren't they on the all state first team? Well, the all world first team, we might as well not have an all state first team if everyone on the all world first team makes the all state first team. So, and then some positions are sort of, you got a traffic jam at some positions on the all state team because everyone who is an all world finalist is automatically placed on the all-state team. So if you've got like 4 defensive backs who are automatically going to be placed in the all-state team, that's sort of a traffic jam for the other really good defensive backs in the state. It's really hard for any other defensive backs to get on the team. But we try our best to make sure everyone is represented across the state well. And we appreciate all the coaches who sent in their nominations and sent in their input. So that's what I wanted. A lot of people ask me, those are the 2 most common questions I get on all state. There's just some positions you've got traffic jams at.
Yep. All right. Well, speaking of high school honors, this Sunday, we have more great content on high schools, the annual inside outside contest. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, we're picking 30 boys and 30 girls players divided into inside and outside players. And this is just something we have fun with. We choose some of the most notable players in the boys and girls sides. And we have a contest where people can vote over the next 2 weeks, starting Sunday, on who they feel is the best inside or outside player for boys and girls basketball. So it's sort of like this voting is spread over 2 weeks, and it's just a fun contest. We like to have some fun with it. And last year we had quite the battle. We had like our biggest all-time voting response in the Mr. Inside contest. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out this time. I mean, it's shattered all types of voting records, and we used to have the contest over a longer length of time, but only over a 2-week period. It shattered all voting records. So it's interesting to see the way these things play out when you get these good battles going.
Now, are you selecting the boys and the girls, or you got some help?
I'm basically doing the boys and the girls.
All right. Well, let's stay with basketball. You saw a couple of good games last Friday, Bixby, Owasso boys and girls. Why don't you share with us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that was a fun night. It was senior night at Bixby, and Bixby came away. Both of the Owasso teams came to the game, very hot teams. The Owasso girls had won 5 in a row. Owasso boys had won 9 in a row. Other than Broken Arrow, they were really the hottest 6A East team. And Bixby won the Bixby girls and Bixby boys won a pair of close decisions. The girls game was a bit of a surprise. I think that Owasso's girls can really take a lot out of that game because Owasso girls have improved considerably since the start of the season. Early on, they lost by 30 some points to Bixby, but they took that game right to the wire. Only Gracie Warnley, who's just, of course, incredible standout for Bixby. She didn't score many points on Friday night, but she hit the winning free throws, or the free throws that put them ahead for the last points of the game that snapped the tie. And then she came up with the big tie-up on defense, the defensive stop on Owasso's last possession, with help from 2 of her teammates to ensure the victory. So that's what I love seeing out in players. Gracie Warnley, who often scores a lot. Abilene Christian signee. She just shows that she doesn't have to score a lot to be an incredibly valuable player. So she's so very impressive. And it was also really neat there in the part of the senior night ceremonies. Meredith Mays, outstanding inside player for Bixby, who suffered a bad knee injury another Abilene Christian signee that she suited up for the first time since the knee injury. She didn't play, but just to suit up as part of senior night activities.
That's nice. So tell me about the Bixby boys a little bit, Barry. I really like the quote in your story from the boys coach where he said, you know, Parker Friedrichsen gets the headlines as he should, but we got other guys too. So what's Bixby like other than Parker Friedrichsen? We all know about him.
Yes. Yeah, Tristan Driver, one of the better sophomores in the area. Guard, he's really good. I mean, when Parker leaves, I think Tristan will probably take center stage at Bixby, and people will really know how good he is. He's really good right now as a sophomore. And he's the one I wound up writing about last Friday, sort of a change of pace, somewhat other than Parker to write about for Bixby. And then Parker's brother, Luke, he's a good shooter too. So Bixby isn't just all Parker Friedrichsen, because Parker needs some help, as good as he is. And he has improved this year, even over from what he was last year. Last year, he didn't have as much help as he does this year. And that's a reason why Bixby, instead of just being a 500 team, is 17-4.
Mm-hmm. What did they do to sort of shut down Jalen Montanati?
They just got a hand in his face a lot. Of course, Jalen was coming off a 39-point game against Union, and they just shut him out really good. They were all over him. And Brandon Mann, who I think is a very overrated, really good, not overrated, underrated good player. I mean, he's been impressive from the get-go to me. I saw him in their season opener. He scored 30 points this year. I mean, everyone focuses on Jalen. And of course, that's understandable. Jalen is a freshman phenom, but Owasso's got some other good players too. And one of those being Brandon Mann, a very consistent inside force. And then they've got another freshman, Bowden Williams, who is very exciting. On a lot of teams, he would, on just about almost any other team, he would be the freshman everyone's talking about. He hit the game-winning shot at the buzzer to beat Bartlesville a week earlier. He doesn't shoot a lot, doesn't need to shoot a lot, but he is really good.
What games are you going to staff this week?
Wow, it's tough to figure out which ones to go to tomorrow, Tuesday. Then this is the weird thing, that these games don't mean anything and we talked about this last week, for postseason seedings and positioning. But there's so many really good matchups. My goodness, it's really too bad. These don't mean anything. On Tuesday night, we're taping on a Monday. So tomorrow night, Tuesday, boys games that are really intriguing. Memorial at Edison. You got number 1 and number 2 in 5A East. Edison won the earlier matchup this year. So, Memorial, that was Edison's first win over Memorial in a long time. So, the Memorial Edison rivalry is going to be very intense tomorrow night. And then you've also got Broken Arrow to Owasso. Broken Arrow trying to finish the regular season undefeated. This will be a challenge. Going into it, Owasso was playing really great. That was only a 4-point game the first time around. Then from a girls' standpoint, 2 great matchups. You've got Bixby at Sapulpa, got number 2 6A East versus number 1 5A East. That's blockbuster. It's the only meeting this year. It's going to be great. And then you've got Lincoln Christian girls visiting Holland Hall girls. Number 1 and 4A against number 3 and 5A East. Holland Hall. So you've got tons of blockbuster matchups to close out, or at near the end of the regular season tomorrow night.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so let's catch everybody up, Barry. So we'll have Inside Outside this coming Sunday. This past Sunday we had all-state football. This past Saturday, all-world football. And then, like you said earlier, we're taping this on a Monday. So, and today's paper was softball, correct? All
Yes, yes,
softball. Tomorrow will be boys and girls cross country.
yes,
And then we end it Wednesday with volleyball.
that is correct.
Got all that right? Okay. So
Yeah. There's
check
a lot.
the
There's a
paper
lot.
out. It's a lot. So check the paper out, check online, give us your feedback. And it's always great to see these kids' accomplishments. So glad we can honor them the way we do. All right, Barry, let's leave it there for this week. You can check us out for free on Google, Apple, or Spotify. Barry, always appreciate the knowledge, and we'll catch up later next week.
All right. Sounds good. See you next week.